شيء. السلام عليكم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. آمين يا أرحم الراحمين. You haven't decided who's going to read.
I can read it.
Okay. Since you enjoy voluntarily to read it, go ahead, inshallah.
We're reading from the Reasonings, page 8, explaining some of the proofs of Muhammad's prophethood. Introduction. Every act and state of Muhammad, upon him be peace and blessings, that is connected with his mission proves his prophethood. His absolute certainty in his actions, his indifference to objections, the fact that he paid no heed to the objections of his opponents, and his fearlessness clearly demonstrate his truthfulness and sincerity. In addition, he did whatever he did in accordance with the spirit of truth. This great personage had absolute certainty in the truth of his mission, so he paid no heed to the objections of his opponents, refused all offers of. When we consider prophethood...
No. Skip that. It's a note. It's a footnote.
Okay. Refused all offers of reconciliation and compromise, and showed no fear, hesitation, or worry in communicating his message, acting with an unshakable confidence even in the most perilous conditions. He always said and did exactly the right thing. He was always the first to practice whatever he communicated to others, and he established his message with his life. The seriousness, harmony, and consistency in all his sayings and deeds, and the perfect balance both in his life and his message are other irrefutable proofs of the truthfulness of his cause. Did we complete it?
No, just tell us, what did you take away from this, what you read?
I mean, he's describing a character who was absolutely sure, absolutely convicted, without any doubt, just like and consistent. Like his surety was consistent with his being. So whatever he said to people or to us also reflects in his being. There's a consistency, or there isn't, a contradiction between his words, his acts, his life, like all aspects of it. So surety and consistency were the qualities shown by someone who claimed to have brought the message of God.
The message equally addresses to him as well.
Right.
It is not the message that he should transfer it to others. No. He took it for himself.
Mm-hmm.
Transferring the message to others was his response to the message. This typical example is given. It is a famous example, the postman example. Delivers the message and gives you the letter and goes away. Now, prophethood doesn't mean that at all. But at the same time, whatever the prophets, by definition, of course, the messengers, are doing ultimately for the sake of themselves, because they have to do it. Not for the benefits of others. It is the extension of it. It sounds selfish because they did it for themselves, but it requires the confidence in their message that is really true and it is really correct, and why not to represent it to others. Demonstrate it. Of course, it is just an extension. We should understand it is just an extension of his responsibility. Before this, from now onwards, we are going to discuss about the prophethood of a person, Muhammad, which is called Muhammad. Now, we have to know that we are going to talk about an historical person, but we haven't discussing about prophethood in general as an institution. Now, I think we came, hopefully, we are satisfied. Inshallah, we are. Hopefully, that there must be a messengership. The creator of the universe must appoint somebody to explain the purpose in his act of creation to conscious beings who speak and understand. Briefly, that's what we are supposed to conclude until now. But from today onwards, we will talk about an historical personage. So, how can you make sure that this historical personage was as it is narrated by other people? Because we don't experience him. We discuss a lot and we repeat on many occasions. It is important to notice that even if we lived in his time, I keep repeating this example because it's so essential and missing from the attention of the people. Even if you live in his household, you cannot make at all sure that this person is the messenger of God. It was employed by God. But we can say he's a good man, etc. But employed by God, received revelation from him, and guided by God, no one can prove it. Now, it is easier to be convinced about the necessity of the messengership. The institution of the messengership is easier to understand by looking at the universe and seeing that it is full of mystery and human beings are full of questions and wonders. We cannot really say that I don't mind whatever happens in the work. I don't care. In the creation, not the political situation. In the creation, just I am here and just live by myself, like an animal. We cannot do that. We are human beings. We wonder, why is it so? Why is it so? We have many questions. and we cannot get the answer to these questions. So we say either the creator of this universe has not really did a good job, because he created the universe in a, let's call it for the moment, in a mysterious way, which we cannot explain the purpose in its existence, and did not, and created me with the curiosity, what is the purpose in my existence, and doesn't provide the answer. Pointless. Pointless, where? In creating me with the ability to ask the questions, to wonder. That makes sense? So we say this creator doesn't seem to be a crazy one without any wisdom. There's no sign showing that in any of his acts, wisdom is lacking. So he must be a wise creator. And if he is the wise creator, since he created me with the ability to ask questions and be curious about my own existence and the existence of other things, he must provide the answer for me in a way that I can comfortably understand it with my language. And as I speak, as human beings speak, it is easy to understand the necessity of the institution of the prophethood. But it is not only difficult if someone wants to make exact conclusion, almost impossible to confirm a person's being the prophet. This person, this is the person who is representing the messengership, which was necessary. Of course, we have to understand first that the messengership must be fulfilled. It means established in order to complete the picture of creation in the universe. Otherwise, the picture of creation will be lacking something, especially very disturbing to human nature, contradicting human reality, human nature. Whoever made me must explain to me why he made me, which kind of thing the maker is who made me in this way. It contradicts if there was no message. So it is easy to understand, but this message must be transferred to me through something, whatever it is. But how can I make sure that this man, this person, is the one who receives and conveys, transfers the message to me? There is no way physically or really with certainty to make me convinced that this is the man. Of course, I have to deduce. While I am using my intellect to understand what's going on in the life of this person, this is the fundamental principle now. If we are talking about an physically existing historical person to be the messenger of God, I have to rely on the narrations of the history about him, because we are talking about the historical person. Well, I cannot really put this man in front of me and observe that he's receiving, a light is coming from the sky, receiving the message, and then giving it to me. There's no way. There's no such thing. So what I have to do, since I am interested in a person, in a historical person to be the messenger of God, I have to rely on historical narrations. even the contemporaries of the Prophet were hearing from each other and observing the man, but at the same time not 24 hours and not seeing any sign that he's receiving the sign, message from God. As the people say, when this person becomes unconscious suddenly and wakes up and puts or says the most convincing statement. I've seen it. That's narration, isn't it? It's narration. So you start thinking about it. Is it possible a person who's unconscious and saying the wisest statement? And the whole life story never changes. It is narration again. It is narration. That's what we hear from historical narration. He says one statement and says, put it in the context of this paragraph, and the paragraph is not complete. At first, when you read the paragraph, there are many missing verses in it. What does it mean? It's not chapter by chapter, as we see in a PhD thesis, it's following each other, supporting each other. It's not like that. It never changes. Never changes in anything. That's historically narrated. Whatever the people leave it with him. Receive the message. He told them message. The prophet, the person, let's call it Muhammad now to be comfortable. Muhammad told them, this is the sentence I received today. Maybe 2, maybe 3, but a small part. And it must be recited together with these verses. 23 years, the life conditions changed radically. He was the most unwanted man in the society once. This is the historical narration again, because we are talking about an historical person. And at the end, he was the most esteemed man in a much larger society. All the varieties of lifestyles in between, most unwanted, disregarded man, the most highly esteemed man, position. All the things in between he went through, never changed the message, even one letter. And he said, it must be here, the verse in this paragraph. Paragraph is not complete. And the other one is here. Other one is here. The paragraph is complete at the end of 23rd year. Who can keep the consistency in 23 years? That something I will receive, and usually I will receive unconsciously. When I recover from my unconsciousness and regain my consciousness, I recite a sentence saying that this is what was revealed to me. It wasn't my work. We cannot really write the most beautiful poem while you faint. Well, people were convinced. The people around him were convinced, and he was so consistent. What is the point in repeating all what I said as an introduction? We have to rely about historical narrations if we want to make sure that a historical person is the subject of this messengership. Do you understand? There is no other way. There is no other way. Even if you see, you cannot really definitely make sure. But You have to read the signs in his life and see the consistency. We are going to study all these, and you said he's so consistent. And his what the message he receives, and he never contradicts the message that he conveys to others by himself first. Never. For example, the most important thing is you should rely on God. It's very difficult. Rely on God, okay? And the people are going to kill you. Rely on God. I'll keep you alive. Don't worry. They are going to kill me. They are attacking me. No, don't worry. I'll take care of it. Go through different stages of life, experiences of life, but never lose faith that I'm going to protect you. And with this confidence, he acted. He never, ever swerved, doubted, hesitated in his action. Whatever he received, the message, in his excuse me, in his early life, everybody, almost with a few exceptions, all society that he was in rejected him. They don't want. He kept insisting, conveying the message. Why? Because we know that the early revelation is studied. Come on. He narrates a sentence that he received from the Creator. That's what he claims. And then the message says, go and convey the message to the people around you. Start from your relatives and your neighbors. He said, okay, I will do it. But they are going to kill you. No, that's what I was told. I have to do it. I have to do it. That's what I was told. The consistency there, assurance in his own life, also demonstrates that I think this man cannot be a liar, risking by lying and risking his life under any circumstances. Right? But as a human being, he looks for or searches for the best way to convey it, but nothing can stop him from conveying the message. These are the main thing that the people, main points, we will discuss more, but the main points that the people around him were convinced that he is obeying the message he received first by himself. First by himself. He is being consistent with the message he conveys to others by himself. First. And asking other people also to be consistent in their life according to teachings that he is conveying. But whether they obey or they disobey, that's up to them. He obeys himself first. You want?
I have some concerns and questions, and not just one, but many. I guess if we start with the title itself, right, where it says establishing the proof of Muhammad's prophethood. Now that we're studying a historical figure, to your comment earlier where you said that we must rely on narrations of people to study someone in history. And while that seems to be a more tangible pathway, I think it's also very important to be mindful of the challenges that get introduced with that. As it's often said, history is his story. So do we not run into the risk of putting on these lenses, or I guess viewing a subjective view of another person's subjective view to a point where it's convoluted and takes and strips away probably almost the essence of the thing itself. And to your point earlier, even if I was in the room, you know, and someone who claims himself to be a prophet said, I just got this message. At this point, are we studying or are we looking for the proof and the possibility of such a thing, or are we looking for the actual tangible proof itself? It makes a lot more sense to me to look for the proof and the possibility of such a thing up until how we've been doing it so far, because I can use myself, a subjective lens or subjective reasoning to conclude on a proof and make that my reality, as opposed to someone else's subjective view, or a more objective view in that sense. That I think is gray area, at least for me. So those are my concerns, I guess. It's not really, it could be phrased as a question as well, but how am I supposed to gain certainty with so many like holes in the logic, or so many, you know, challenges?
Now, as you were really presenting beautifully your concerns, I was thinking, yeah, that's correct. My conclusion about my belief in the Creator comes from the witness, the signs that I am physically experiencing right now. The sun is shining now, the moon is turning and taking different shapes so wisely, letting me know where I am, in which position I am physically. And that definitely needs a conscious planner and a conscious act of creation, realized by a conscious being. So obvious in front of me, I'm seeing it. So belief in God is very easy, because the evidence is in front of your eyes. You are not hearing any narration from anybody else. Right? That's your own conclusion. Here you are. Look at yourself and other creatures, any of the creatures. You definitely know that this is the work of a conscious being. No doubt. So this conscious being must exist, but by definition and understanding that this conscious being is the creator, not of the same nature of what he is doing, the action itself. So if if I was expected to believe in God as physically appearing in front of my eyes, I wouldn't believe in God. Right? It doesn't make sense. If it physically appears in front of me, how huge it is, I don't know. Doesn't matter. So powerful, something like that. I will say, you are a part of the creation. I'm sorry, you cannot be God. So it is the most important point that we have to pay attention to. Belief in God requires to believe in ghaib. That makes sense. But it doesn't believe in the ghaib. We understand all of them. Something not physically appearing and physically palpable and practiced, can be practiced, practical, seems to be, it is impossible. But in fact, on the contrary, believing in or concluding that the creator of the universe cannot be physically observable is the most convincing evidence for me. Right? It's easy, very easy. Now that there must be such a source of existence, the one who created. Who is it? There must be. There must be. Have you seen? No, there must be. I don't have to see. If I see the creator, I would believe in him as the creator. Contradicts. Get it? That is why to believe in God is very easy. Very easy. Very simple. The problem is, believe in the claim of a person as to be the messenger of God. Now it is in front of me, a physical being, and I don't see any sign that he's receiving the message from ghaib. It means not physically perceivable creator is speaking or addressing to him. No one can see. Even Quran tells this story that Moses received the message directly from the prophet, but he never saw him. Impossible. The Quran also says that you cannot see me. It means he wanted to see him. Of course, he's the man. Since I hear their voice, but I want to see who is really producing this voice. It's a human desire. But soon he realized that, of course, if he saw him, he's not God. He's not the creator. Cannot be the creator. If you see him, if you saw him. That's why it is impossible to see God in it is, if you like, that's what the only word we can use, physical form. It is impossible. And it should be not possible either, by definition, if he's the creator, because the creator must have a different dimension of existence than the created beings. But when it comes to the proving the messenger of a person, we have to see some other physical examples in his life. Now, the authenticity of the narration, that was the, I think, main concern in you, is not important. Why is not important? Authenticity of the narration. Because when you and I say, we have to understand this. I believe, or we believe, that an historical person who's called Muhammad, Abdullah's son, historically, it is narrated in this way. A prophet, we are not bringing a physical being in front of us and saying, you are the prophet. I know. No one is doing that. By looking at the end products of his life, I have to rely on other people's narration, although this narration may be slightly distorted, especially filtered, which is inevitable. Everybody narrates an event. What? Let's say something happened in the Washington Square. There are 100 people watched the same event, witnessed the same event. After the event is over, and ask these 100 people, come on, write it down what you have seen. Don't you think that everybody's account will be different from the others? The authenticity of the content of the narration is not important. But we have to see the consensus. Consensus what? For example, 100 of the people who observed the same event said somebody did this, something happened like this, and they interpret the event from their own perspective, according to their own priorities, right? They did it, but consensus is what? Such an event, whatever it is, happened. So the consensus is important. That's why the people this is another subject. From time to time, we refer to it. I said, if you don't know how to read the hadith narrations, don't read it. Don't read it. You will be completely lost if you don't deny it. Because as far as I read it, if you don't have the criterion, deny it. Really, you deny every narration and lose the authenticity of the narration. Your faith. You lose your faith in the authenticity of the narration. The same event is described differently. Which one should I don't know. But no, that needs expertise. But people who have shallow understanding of prophethood, who have shallow understanding of the narration, exactly historical narration of the hadith, it means sayings and acts of the prophet, they deny, they may deny easily the authenticity of all narrations and throw them into a trash can and then, okay, the Quran is enough for me. That's a very expected result of the conclusion of the person who studies the hadith with a shallow, if not at all, any background information, if they don't understand. That's why we have to look at not the authenticity, the content of the authenticity of the narrations, but we have to look at the consensus about the consensus among the narrations altogether. We have to look at them. Now, it is a subject. If somebody wants to make sure that the content of the narration is this true and most likely to be true, that's all what they say, most likely to be. This one is most likely to be the appropriate one by studying the historical background of it, the historical background of the narration. But all of them agree that they are talking about one person. Don't they? They are talking about one event took place in Washington Square. They are talking about one person. And this person is historically known as Muhammad. Most of the people, even in his lifetime, confirmed the messengership of Muhammad according to narrations. What they hear, what they heard, what they heard. Accordingly, they confirmed his messengership. These narrations are about what he has done, what he is doing. And the result was so obvious because the result was in the, I would say, at the society level. Which kind of society he established, which kind of life he presented, he lived and presented to human beings, which kind of message he conveyed to other people. But their understanding of the message inevitably varies. Definitely, it is human. But at the same time, the originality of the message, originality means this is the message conveyed from or narrated from a certain person who everybody agrees on, who's called Muhammad. Even they have not seen it. But the content definitely varies, inevitably varies, because the narrators are filtering the observation according to their own lenses. That is inevitable. That's why if you study the hadith narrations, in order to understand the messengership of the Prophet Muhammad, then you can benefit from it. you don't have to be an expert. When everybody talks about it, trustfulness, is it right? Trustworthiness. Everybody talks about his consistency, but I narrate his consistency different from your narration, from his consistency. But no one said that Prophet gave up an idea at the end. Once he despaired and said that I'm not going to do this job anymore. But don't be misled by the stories borrowed from Israeliyat and went into the commentaries on the Quran, saying that one of the prophets left his job, and this kind of narrations that's not really what the Quran tells. That is the result of the literal reading of the message of God. So I don't pay attention to them. That is, the consensus is the important matter. We are not going to go into the specifics, but as we started today, what we said, he was consistent. He was really resolute in his message. He never reconciled with any of his message under any thread that directed to him. Never reconciliation. Never did it. He just kept on going, and at the risk of his own life. He never gave up. That's what we have to pay attention as far as we studied the text. The text says, look, his unshakable confidence in his conveying the message shows that it is the person who brings the message. But we are not saying this person. We are hearing the narration. So we say, since but we started from, since the creator of the universe must reveal the answers to my questions. Otherwise, the creation becomes contradicting itself. It is so wise, the creation is so wise, full of wisdom, but as far as I am concerned, the most important point is missing in wisdom, would be missing in wisdom, if there was no explanation from the creator. So the creator must speak to me, explain to me. Yeah? Creator must explain to me in an answer to my natural questions, which is given to me again by the creator, the same creator. Otherwise, it would be a contradiction. If there was no reply, there was no answer. So that is for sure now. But how can I get this revelation? How can I receive this revelation is a matter of question. So somebody claimed something, and I can see that this claim is consistent with the creation and helps me to interpret the creation in a way that makes sense to me and satisfies my questions. Do you understand? Now, the message again is different from the messenger. Now, the message of the Quran, if you carefully read it and really go into detail, not literal reading, not the translation only, the translation is the starting point. If you go into it, you understand that the creator is educating me. giving me the answers to my human questions. That is, again, the second degree, sure that it is the word of the creator of the universe, creator of me. It is easier to believe in the Quran as the word of God than it is then believing in a person to be the one who conveys the message to me as the messenger, a particular person. That's what we say. We say, historically, a man who is called Muhammad conveyed this message and consistently was obeying the message, conveying the message, and by himself first following the message with no fear, no reconciliation. This person, whoever he is, be careful with the language, for us now, whoever is this person must be the messenger. Whoever had these qualities must be the messenger. Now, are we going to take the picture of him or film of him, anything? No. Whoever this person who is called Muhammad is the messenger. But this is what? Believing in God? Sure. Believing in the word of God? Second degree sure. Believing in a person to be the messenger of God is third degree, depending on the narrations, and saying that, oh, I don't know who Muhammad was, but such a person must exist. Such a person must exist. Then this person is the prophet for me with these qualities. Now the questions, starting from those.
Everything you laid out around as creation, the answers to our questions must be presented to us in ways we can verify. That makes sense, and the notion that we can use our human capacity to verify the Creator and verify the Creator's message. It seems to me that we might be, why is it that we're using different methods of verification when we're trying to verify the prophet? So when we try to understand the Creator, you're teaching to us is look at the world around you and use your own observation to verify the Creator, your reality. Correct. And the same thing for maybe even the message, right? Understand
the Quran in front of you.
Right, it's here. It's everywhere. Right?
And the Quran also, here you can read it. But superficial reading may not satisfy. But really, go deep, study. You understand the consistency there, and as a reply, as a satisfactory answer to your questions, you can verify it. This can be the worst guidance from the Creator of this universe. Look, we are not saying the Creator up there. No. Whoever created this universe, this guidance must be from him. As we are traditional example is, here is the machine, here is the manufacturer's manual. So when you read the manufacturer's manual, you see and practice it with the machine.
Yep.
If it works, are you sure that this manual has been prepared by the manufacturer of the machine? That's sure. I mean, if you doubt about it, then
so in the same,
it is impossible. But when it comes to the instructor of the manufacturer's manual, it is a historical personage. So we have to rely on the historical narrations, what other people observed of him in his life, and what they said about him, whether he is the one who is representing Now, he is not the one who is the author of the manufacturer's manual, but he is the one who is instructing me about the content of the manufacturer's manual and asking me or guiding me to apply it while I'm using the machine, especially to myself. For example, when you read the Quran carefully, all the stories and every seemingly irrelevant things are in fact directly related to your personal life. In fact, that's why I call the Quran is, in the language of today's people, is a psychological book, teaching me what am I supposed to do here and how am I going to utilize my human feelings, and how am I going to have the best, satisfactory, happy life. And the Quran provides it for you. It's very simple. It's very simple to understand it if you look at the Quran for this purpose. But if you look at the Quran to get rulings, yeah, physical actions which are called rituals, you are in trouble. Then you have to find other ways of verifications. But really, that's why the Quran doesn't really give a picture of rituals in their, if you like, physical form. That's it, fast. That's it, fast. From the sunset, from the dawn to the sunset, dusk. Fast. Don't eat. That's it. No details. That's why we understand that I have to do something, and I can go. The only thing, if I want to go into details, I have to go to to ask the instructor. What does it really mean that I read from the manufacturer's manual, and how can I apply it here? The instructor will explain it to you. Expected to explain it to you. But the problem, where the problem lies now, the instructor's explanation is narrated by people, and this narration is inevitably filtered by the lenses of the people. That's why we cannot apply the same principle as we use for belief in the existence of God, in the Quran or the Quran or other books. I mean, if we had the original form as the Word of God, we cannot apply the same method to believe in the messenger of a particular person. What we have to do, there must be such a person. And this person historically narrated to me to be a person who's called Muhammad, lived in this physical area, geographical area, in this time of the history. The narration says that, again, we have to read the narrations according to what? Where is the consensus taking place? Where the consensus is taking place, not in details. And especially if you are obsessed with fiqh rules, they never pay attention to this side of it. They only say, he did this, he did this. Which narration about this action is more correct? They investigate this. They never question that. How can I make sure that this person is the messenger? They never question this. Because in fiqh matters, there is no belief. And the belief is taken for granted. They don't give the belief aspect to the actions or the rituals. They only talk about the physical appearance or the physical performance of the rituals. That's why their concern is completely different. If you read any fiqh book, you will never have any confidence that this person was the messenger, or the most likely would be the messenger of God, employed by God. You will never get this. Maybe you will, if you have some sort of prejudices, you will have suspicion because of the transformation of the physical actions into a very physical, definite forms. You will say, do you know, the messenger, God employed a messenger for these details, for these things? No. You say, no. There is no need for the creator of the universe to employ somebody to teach me that I have to wash my hands and my arms up to here and no dot should remain dry. So what? Making them wet, so what? This is what I mean? Doesn't make any sense. You don't have to be, you don't have to get the message from God to teach this to people. So it is so little thing, small thing. That's why we receive a narration or tradition in the wisdom world from mainly the people who are not only interested, obsessed by fiqh rules, rituals, performance of the rituals. Obsessed. In fiqh, obsession. If you really read some, you go crazy. You will say, come on, man. Did you spend your time for this? Come on. Even the Prophet himself was so relaxed, so flexible. You are making it so tough. Do you understand that? But because of the perspective they had towards the narrations from the life of the Prophet, practice of the Prophet, because of this obsession, they didn't see the belief aspect of these events. That's why they are not concerned with it. There's a very surprising, very great people, very serious scholars, not paying attention to the belief aspect of the rituals, which is so, to me, so surprising. But you are a clever man because of the studies you perform to us. Looks that you are a very wise man. Why didn't you use your wisdom in this aspect of the matter? No one complains that, or not complain. No one is concerned with the fact that I have to present that this historical person is the messenger of God. No, they are not concerned with it. What they say, this is taken for granted. This is the messenger of God. We are the believers. How can I follow his way of life? Even the messenger of Muhammad himself is taken for granted. The Quran is to be the word of God is taken for granted. Believing God is taken for granted in the fiqh subject. And what we inherited is nothing but fiqh religion, or fiqh Islam. Are they wrong? No. They are right, but they are missing the fundamental aspect of the matter. Have you seen any fiqh book which explains, why am I here? They say, okay, God said in the Quran, I created human beings to worship me. That's why you are here. Why? That's what God said. Don't you believe in the Quran? That's the answer. When I was young, these are the experiences in my life which really pushed me to this way, that I have to concentrate on the belief aspect of everything. There was a book presented by certain institution which claimed to be the representative of the Muslim community. And this small booklet actually, was prepared to present Islam to non-Muslims, for the tourists coming and visiting a Muslim country. Believe me, it is unbelievable, but I experienced that. The first page starts presenting Islam with the verse saying that Inna ad-deena inda Allahi al-Islam, Quran, Surah, ayat number. The translation of it into English. Verily, definitely, the only religion acceptable to God is Islam. Right? And this is quoted from the Quran. Of course, a foreigner opens it. They say, the yearbook says, I am right. That's why they believe that it is right. And it's their choice. I have nothing to do with it. Bye-bye. This is what I mean? It was meant to present Islam to non-Muslims. But the result is to make the non-Muslims into a non-believers in Islam. That is the contradiction of this approach. I said, this is the most stupid thing. Believe me, I threw the book away, never read the rest. Because he failed the main principle. That's it. And then I said, what am I supposed to do now? Yeah? This is wrong. This is obvious. This is totally stupid. I continue searching. Okay. You wanted.
I guess what you say makes sense, except for the parts. So we don't pay attention to the details. We pay attention to the consensus of the events. Right. But in this case, the consensus is still coming from his companions.
From this?
Companions.
Not the people. People around him.
But people that liked him, that had positive.
Yeah, they witnessed his practical life, physical life.
I mean, maybe it's not right to think like this, but I'm just gonna, for example, can we use the same logic to make a conclusion about another historical figure?
Another
historical figure? Like, for example, if I look at Western sources and to come up to a conclusion about, for example, like Winston Churchill.
So, do you believe that the famous Alexander the Great was an emperor of a state?
Okay.
How? Did you experience it? Narration. So we say there was a person, yeah? Not the person. A person who did all this, narrated to me, and this person was according to the narration, was the emperor of a certain state, administered in such and such geographical land in such and such date. That is, again, consensus, but the details about the life of Alexander the Great will be depending on the narrator's filters. We don't mind about it, but we say Alexander the Great, such a person existed. The same thing, for example, in the narrations of the Quran mentions several personalities in history, saying that the famous Adam, Abraham, Noah, Moses, David, Jacob, Jesus, Muhammad, the same. To believe, to be convinced that there was a historical person who's called Moses. There was a person who's called Moses. And the Quran says he was a prophet. Can you verify it? Can you verify it? No. You cannot verify the person. No. You cannot verify the person. But such a person represented the message of God, and he conveyed the message to his people in this way. Let me benefit from the message. We are not concerned about the person of Moses. But in the culture, you have to confirm that Moses was a prophet. Excuse me, I haven't seen him, but the narrations from him, I benefit from this narration, but I haven't seen him. But such a person must exist. Such a person must exist. Now, it is the same for Muhammad. I mean, Moses is unknown. Muhammad is equally unknown, with the exception that there are narrations, living narrations, so the people lived with him, narrated to me, but the content of the narration is not important. The content of the narration is not important. The consensus about the people talking about him and narrating his behavior as the one who brought the Quran and obeyed himself, followed himself. The Quran, the message he brought, first, no one said that I've seen Muhammad contradicted himself as he transferred the message to me. No one said this. But their observation may be different, but consensus is the most important. So we don't really go into details of these narrations. That's why I always go and attack the people who have an attitude of reducing the message of God to fiqh methods, with rituals only, because this is the culture we have inherited, and it is not really, it doesn't really prove that historical Muhammad was the messenger of God, because it is not his subject. It is not his means, it is not fiqh subject. After accepting it, you follow his way of life. But as far as we are concerned, we have to follow a way of life of an instructor who acts according to the message. That's why in the tradition, Islamic tradition, the most important and effective witness of the prophetic way of life is, what is that? What is this? Who is it? Come on, you know it. Sorry? No, where did you get it from?
The universe?
No, it is not the proof I am asking.
Okay.
Where did you learn La ilaha illallah from? Verbal explanation, La ilaha illallah.
Yourself.
No?
Oneself.
No. The verbal expression, where is it stated? So that you don't. The Quran. That's why all the Muslim scholars, whether fiqh related or what, doesn't matter. Everybody says the most reliable and most important evidence of the prophetic way of life is the Quran. You see what I mean? Is the Quran. The others are secondary. Secondary. But of course, the narration is so powerful about the details of his life. So that although, for example, however the prophet performed his prayer is described in various ways, right? For example, you may open, I recently read this, that's why it's fresh in my mind. The prophet used to make this called qunut on the last rek'ah, the unit of the prayer, after making bowing, standing up, and he used to open his hand and speak with his own language, yeah, as he wants. Not the Quranic language. It's his own languages, Arabic, typical that day, how the people used to speak. Typical.
Personal prayer, meaning.
So for himself, it means if you were doing the qunut, you would do it in English, if it is your native language. So you must heard of it, but not you must. You might have, but it is that in the tradition that you can make qunut in your own language. Yeah, you don't have to, because the prophet did it in his own language, not the Quranic language. Okay? But if you read this, this is in the hadith, in the most authentic, regarded hadith books, right? But later on, a verse was revealed. I'm not going into details, a little bit needs a lot of explanations. So the reveal that you cannot make a specific type of qunut. It is up to God, leave it to God, and express your own needs, right? Don't pass judgment on others. Curse on this man, curse on this tribe, etc. If I'm going to curse it, I will curse it. None of your business. If I'm going to forgive it, I am going to forgive. What you want, express yourself to me. What you personally want, right? For example, if you want that your friends to be guided, you love them, yeah. Your parents, your family members to be guided. Say, please, God, I need it. That's my need. I really want to guide my family members, my friends, to all the people. This is what I mean, or the people of New York, you can say. That's your need. Don't say, oh God, curse on the people of New York because they did something wrong to the Muslim community. So stop this. The verse came. And afterwards, the narration starts saying that prophet made a certain type of qunut, not the qunut he used to do it. If you don't know the historical background, you get puzzled. This hadith says this hadith says this. Most of them are authentic. Yes, most of them are authentic, correct. But you have to know it. Now, all of them narrated different types of practice of the prayer, physical, ritualistic praying, the 5 times a day. Varies. You read the prayer, some narrations, the prophet never prayed after Asr prayer. And no nafil, they call it nafil or something, nafil prayer, right? And another hadith says, I've seen prophet performed prayer after Asr. For what reason? For what was it for? There's no detail. They seem to be contradictory. What is consensus? Here,
He prayed Asr.
he
Prayed
prayed.
Asr.
Sorry?
That he prayed Asr.
No,
Or prayed.
no, he prayed. He performed a certain ritual. How did he tell? I don't care. He performed the ritualistic prayer, which is called 5 times a day prayer. If you go into details, you start doubting about the authenticity of the hadith, mostly because you don't know the background. But when it comes to some narrations, we rely only on the consensus side of it. For example, there are many other examples that we have to understand. Okay, some other people may want the questions, may want. Okay?
Can I try to summarize the discussion for the past few minutes? I think Qasim and I were both concerned around what we thought we heard, which was we have to rely on others, the consensus developed by others, etc. But I think what you're saying is we're not uniquely dependent on the consensus from those who observed the prophet, but instead we should be using our same reasoning, our same rationale, meaning our confirmation comes through assessing what these consensuses may be to understand does that confirm our understanding of the universe and our creator. So for example, if there is consensus around the prophet was trustworthy, well, certainly our understanding of our existence would suggest that whoever is the prophet ought to be a trustworthy person. So we take that. If there were consensus around, the prophet did some minute ritual thing, and our confirmation or observation of the universe does not comport to that, then maybe that's something that we don't take as literally, but that you're still asking us to use our own human reasoning and apply that to the consensus narrations that come from the prophet's time, much like we do with the Quran or with trying to understand the creator.
But
is the same tool just being applied to a different medium?
Yeah, but the object of our verification, it means the existence of God, and the Quran to be the word of God is directly accessible to me in my present life. But the prophethood of an historical man is not. That's why we have to understand that I don't have to get a picture of a man and confirm that he is the messenger of God. But there must be a person who is the messenger of God, because necessary. And what the narrations tell me, that there is a consensus about a particular person who's called Muhammad to be the one who brought the message, the Quran, and also applied in his life, practiced in his life. So why should I hesitate? If you remember, those people who have been attending this class, I said on quite a number of occasions, we should look at the universe, and we should also examine the Quran. I'm very briefly summarizing it. We have to come to a conclusion that there must be an individual who brought this message and practiced it in his personal life. If you are not convinced that this person, as it is narrated, again, I'm underlining it, this historical person narrated historically, because there's no other way. Historical person can be understood only by relying or looking at the historical narrations historically. right? Narrated. So people say this is Muhammad. If you say, I looked at the narrations and I am not convinced about this particular person as to be the messenger of God, I say, okay, find another one. There must be one. And this one will be Muhammad for you. This is what I mean. That is why if a person presents that Muhammad, the seal of the prophet, Muhammad, the seal of the prophet, this is what I mean. There is only one verse which can be understood in various ways. The seal of the prophet. Why? They are afraid that their man may be ignored, left behind. Because their man is the hero for themselves. This is what I mean? That's what the emphasis on giving by the traditional people. Muhammad is the seal of the prophet. But rather than the prophet, the seal is underlined. Have you noticed that? Yeah? The seal, the seal, the seal. Why? They don't feel confident. This is what I mean? That's why they want to make sure. No, don't come up with another name. Oh, be careful. But in any case, there must be a prophet. Now, the narrations, historical narrations, present the consensus to me that Muhammad was the man. So, if you have any other option where there is consensus about the messengership of this person, believe in him. Believe in him. Say that this person was the messenger. As long as you believe in the messengership, you are fine. But do we have any other narrations from the consensus which is substantiated as much as the narrations from from Muhammad's life is concerned? I have no knowledge of him. Especially as the latest one. Do you see what I mean? The latest one. What does it mean, latest one? If you study Vedas or other Far Eastern religious books regarded as sacred books, maybe divinely revealed, yeah. They say the one who conveyed this message to us is our, if you like, hero or the prophet, let's say. I have no objection to it. I don't know. Maybe. In his time, as far as my time is concerned, my age is concerned, do I have any other person? There is a consensus about his being the person, messenger. I don't see it. And especially historically, surely verified that the Quran is the word of God. After you study it, you will come to this conclusion. And this Quran is transferred to me. Everybody agrees that through Muhammad, the person who's historically existed. So there's a consensus there. If you are convinced that, first, God exists, if someone is convinced that prophethood must be the word of God, word of God must exist, and the Quran is the word of God, speech of God. And if someone, again, through his physical present-day experience and verification that the creator of this universe must employ a person as an instructor of this message. Now, the four things, God, Quran, no, the three things, the institution of messengership. The fourth comes, who is this man? And you have to rely on the historical narrations where you can find the consensus. That is why we say, whoever is this person is, who's called, they call it, they narrated Muhammad, okay, this person, where or on him there is a consensus, must be the messenger, because there must be a messenger, and here is the consensus. So if you want to, if you are satisfied that the word of God, the Quran is the word of God, then the one who brought it must be the messenger. So historically, no one, even the most severe enemy of Islam, claimed that Quran was not received by the people through Muhammad, who's called Muhammad, a person who's called Muhammad. I said, okay, there's no other way. So, although I have no physical evidence, no one has physical evidence, according to the teachings of the Quran. Now, I will say something, but it may be a little bit confusing. Even Muhammad himself is expected to believe in his messengership. But to believe, not to know, not to physically experience. Because you may get some inspirations from something which is called, for example, I don't know how it happens, but jinn. How do you know? The first time when he received the message, he thought he is really, jinns are playing with him. That's why he was shocked. He was shocked. What is happening? Is it really true from God? Who is that? Who am I that the God is going to speak to me? Oh, what is that? Later on, repetition of the revelation, and through the angels, he experienced that something happens to me, and suddenly I learned something. And I am instructed how to do with this message, what to do with this message. He was sure. That's why, look, look at the verse in the Quran. Amana Rasulu. Look, the word, the prophet, believed. Look. The belief is one's conclusion as a result of his experience and science. Yeah? Believed. Bima unzila ilayhi min rabbih. Well, mu'minun, the others also believed in it. One. Kullun, all of them, the Rasul and the other people. Kullun amana billahi. All of them believed in God. Wa malaikatihi, believed in angels, his angels, God's angels. Wa rusulihi. Muhammad himself was subject of belief in his messengership. Well, what's going on? He said, in his message, he brought to human beings. I believe I am a, believe, be careful with the word believe. Belief is what? Not knowledge. conclusion as a result of observing and experiencing the signs. Again, belief. Not physical appearance. God came to him and said, "Oh, Muhammad, welcome. How are you? Let's shake your hand." No physical experience. It is a matter of belief as much as for Muhammad, as much as it's a matter of belief for me. Look at the evidence and conclude. Look at the evidence and conclude. This subject is so essential to me and so serious that unfortunately, if you have the concept of the messengership, Muhammad is being the messenger of God as it is inherited, as you inherit from the culture, you will never be satisfied with it. You have to put it aside and rethink about it. Put it in a different context, and to me it makes sense. A person, whoever he is, conveyed the Quran, and there is a consensus about his life experience, demonstrates to me that that person, which is mentioned historically, must be the one that I'm looking for, because I'm looking for a messenger. I always say, again, I will repeat this, and it will be the last. If you are not satisfied with Muhammad as it is narrated historically, you have to find another person to be the messenger. Find with the same conviction, with the same evidence. Find. Come to me as well. I know somebody in Africa doing that, and I'm sure the evidence shows that he's the messenger of God. Go and investigate it. See the narrations about him. If you are satisfied with it, go ahead with it. But you cannot deny that there must be a messenger. Right? And historical narration is so by they go with my friends and foes agreed that this is the man who's called Muhammad, conveyed the Quran, and demonstrated this historical event. No one can deny that historically, in a geography, in history, in a certain geography, the teachings of this man prevailed for centuries and centuries. Physically, do you deny the existence of the Abbasi period? Do you deny the existence of Seljuk period and this Ottoman period? But if you deny, we'll go ahead. Historically, can you deny the existence of Roman Empire? Everything, the buildings and civilizations and books, all consensus, all get together about to make sure that to convey the message to us that such a thing happened. But let's say about the reality of the Abbasid kingdom, right? I have no doubt about it. About the reality of Abbasid or Abbasid, however you call it, kingdom, I have no doubt about it. But about the narrations concerning the life of the kings of Abbasi period, I have every doubt about it. They are all made up. Do you understand? Do you understand the difference? How the Ottomans are narrated, Ottoman kings are narrated to be, is full of make-up stories. can you deny? You make up stories, sure, I'm sure. So how about the existence of this institution on earth from this time of the history up to this time of history in this geography of the world? Can you deny that? No, that's what we have to have the attitude towards belief in Muhammad's, specifically Muhammad's being the prophet of God, employed by God. In details, don't worry about it. Authenticity of the hadith, the content of the authenticity of the hadith, don't worry about it. You cannot deal with it if you are not really expert. Even you are expert, you cannot make sure anything. But consensus is there that the Medina administration is an historical reality. Establisher of the Medina institution, it was by a man. This is historical reality. Do you understand? Shall we stop? Now, think about it again. It is a very sensitive subject, the most difficult subject, right? That's why the pillars of belief is what? I don't know how to stop. Believe in God, believe in angels, believe in the books that God speaks, believe in the messengers, believe in the hereafter. That's such a thing definitely happen. Believe in I'd say that everything is organized, ordered, under the command of a God, which is called Qadar. It is His decision, the world to be like this, and you and me to be like we are. This is His decision, which is called Qadar. You cannot say that, why do I have two hands? That's my Qadar. Yeah. These are all pillars of belief. It's taught by historically narrated by Prophet Muhammad, right? Have you noticed something? Here, what did you notice?
I mean, maybe this is not the same thing as you're asking, but what I noticed was like, why are the books and the prophet different?
Sorry?
Why are books and the belief in the revelation and the belief in the prophet
The one who
two
brought
different
it.
things?
How did you receive the book?
Why aren't they not one thing?
How did you bring it?
The book
who
was,
brought it to you? Then he's
the messenger
presents
did
it to
not
you.
come without
No,
a
that is
message,
different.
and the message did
Look,
not come without a messenger.
That is another concern. Well, I understand.
Right.
But you cannot make it together. A person brings the message, and the message is here. How about the person?
Came with the message.
That's the messenger.
Right. So, to me, they're inseparable. Like they are.
No, that of course. For example, can you separate the word of God from God? The same thing.
Right.
The angels from God.
But I can separate the manifestation of God's qualities in creation versus in speech. Like
No, it is the manifestation of His qualities as well, speech. No, you cannot separate it. That's why they are all interrelated. Let me point out the last one. What was the main 6 pillars of belief in the teachings of Muhammad himself? What was it? What is missing there? What we expect there?
Angel.
Sorry? Sorry? I don't hear.
Pilgrimage.
Sorry?
Pilgrimage.
No, it is not the pillars of the belief. It is not the pillars of belief.
Did you say
you don't do it,
angels
doesn't
already?
really matter.
He said.
Yeah.
Sorry?
I was just confirming whether you said angels.
No. I said angels. Yeah. God, angel, the book, the messenger, and hereafter, and let's put it this obviously divine determination. Everything is determined by the Creator. You cannot determine about anything else. Yeah, but you are free will in the order only. You cannot only choose between the order. how do you say, rules of the order. You cannot really determine anything. You cannot create another star, for example.
What's noteworthy?
What did we mention? What did we not mention here? Yeah?
What did we not mention?
Yeah. In the 6 pillars.
My existence.
Sorry?
My existence. My existence.
That is your belief in your belief, God, Muhammad. We, the human beings, according to the teachings of Muhammad, human beings are expected definitely to make sure, investigate and make sure that messengership must be. Muhammad's messengership is an extension of it, historical narration. That's what we have to understand this. When we say, I witness, what do they say? I give testimony to the fact that God, there is nothing in the world which has divine quality but God. And also I confirm that Muhammad is his creature as well as employed messenger. Now, why do we say that? When we say that what? I ask some people who just follow the tradition to give them a shock, if it is a therapy or just complete shattering. How do you know Muhammad? Where did you get it? And they say, we believe. Not believe. Belief must be the result of your verification. But in fact, when we say Muhammadun abduhu wa rasuluh, there must be prophethood, and historically, this person represents this institution. Why not? I have no other option. Do you understand? That is what we have to make sure and feel comfortable. It is too late. Sorry. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Think about it again. Never think of believe in the prophethood of Muhammad in terms of what you have heard until now, until today. Leave all of them aside. Start from the beginning. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana innaka antal alimul hakim wa akhiru da'wahum and alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.